You work with what you got, and what I've got is printed calendars on a poster board. Hey Dragonlings, it is Tuesday, which means it is the 6th. Mondays are always admin days for me, so you're probably not going to see a lot of footage from me on Mondays. So my vlogs will probably run Tuesday through Saturday for the time being. And admin days are used for multiple different things, it just depends on what's going on. Yesterday I did a lot of stuff with website stuff that was not originally on my plan. I had some story stuff on my plan, which I did get done. I'm very proud of myself for that. But the website stuff came around because every Monday I usually have a backstage meeting with Amy. She is a SEO freelance person who does web design. And she actually designed my website, my current website. But we've been talking off and on throughout for the past couple of years about my publishing company's website, Brimstone Books. And so her Christmas/birthday present to me was designing Brimstone Books, and so she surprised me with that. We haven't actually been able to meet up for the past couple weeks because of holidays and illnesses and stuff like that. So we met up for the first time since basically November, it feels like. Probably not, but it feels like November. Yesterday. And she was like, surprise! And she showed me what she'd done so far on the Brimstone Books website. It's not live yet, but hosting is covered. I'm very happy about that. And at least for now, I think I got a year of hosting. I don't know. I'll have to double check with her and stuff like that. But hosting is covered. I already had the domain name. We just have to attach it. And she designed a few pages. I have been designing my own pages using Google Sites. So I had like bare basics, fairly simple pages like done. And I did send her. What I had to do basically for her was send all of her that information with like what pages I wanted, what information I already had for said pages and stuff like that. What my vision was for the pages. So there's a few things I still have to do for her for that, but mostly it's done. And that was unintentional work that I ended up doing yesterday, and I'll probably do the rest of it like next Monday basically. Because it's not going to get done this week if I still want to keep to my schedule and get other things done, especially since I'm already behind schedule anyways because of the fact that I've got all these videos to edit and upload that I hadn't done yet before the start of this month because of various reasons. So I actually just finished editing a video that's going to go live on Thursday, and hopefully tomorrow at some point I can do the same thing and start editing the video that's supposed to go live the following Thursday. I'm hoping to try to get ahead. Like, it would be really cool if by the end of this month I'm actually ahead. But we'll see what happens. Saturdays, probably during my live streams, are going to be video editing days, and we'll go from there. But yeah, I'm getting work done. I'm very happy with my writing progress. During my sprints with JC last night, I ended up writing a total of over 1,600 words. I can't remember exactly how much it was. The first sprint was like 900 something. Second sprint was 600 something, or 700 something. 6, 7? Something like that. 6 or 700 something. And so yeah, I am getting things done. We will see how long this momentum lasts, but suffice it to say that at least at this moment, it's working well. But I am super tired, and I'm going to go to bed. And then tomorrow when I get off work, I need to take a shower, which means I have to pack my shower bag at some point. And also, tomorrow is the first workout session, so that's going to be fun. Oh, yay. I think, oh shoot, this week is sleep studies at work, which means I need to go in half an hour later. What I might do is I might go in at my normal time, go to the gym, do my 30 minutes of workout, go to work, and then when I get off work, go take my shower. That might be what I do. On sleep study weeks, that might be what I do. I might go in at my normal, because I can't go clean PT before a certain time or I'll wake their sleep study patient. So that's what I'm gonna do. Alright, cool. I've got a plan of action, so I can make this work. Anyways, I'm gonna sign off for now. I need to get to bed. I am super tired. The video, I was I was waiting for a video to export. It's not exported. I'm gonna double check it, make sure everything's working right, so I can upload it later. I am not uploading it now. I'm too tired. So check in with you guys later. So I decided that as I complete tasks for the day, I've completed these 3. They'll go in this jar. I'll pull the sticky note off and put them in this jar. That way, it will be easier for me to see what I complete. Now, that being said, let's say I finish writing this date instead of this date. I will pull all of these right ones off and toss them in the trash because they will not be needed. And then I will just continue on to this week right here. And the admin tasks, I want to keep on the admin task day. So, like, those will always be on Monday. So let's say I finish these early and still have time to work on stuff. I'll start working on 19 and I'll just pull them off and toss them in my jar as I finish stuff. But if I don't need it at all, like if I don't end up writing, let's say I finish writing this day and I move on to editing, I will just pull these 3 off and toss them in the trash and just keep the ones that I did use. So, yay for plans moving forward! And in the end, I will put these sticky notes in my jar as well as I finish up each of these. So, like, when Angeling is finally published in May, this one will come off and go in my jar. That way, I can use that color to start planning for a new project. Yay! Yes? Can I help you? Is there a reason you're meowing at me? Do you just want me to pet you, or are you trying to go outside? Do you want to go outside? I can't tell, old man. Meow. Meow. You gonna jump up here and give me loves? Please don't tear the couch. It's new to us. Anyways, he decided he wanted to talk to me. I wanted to do a midweek check-in, plus I wanted to talk about a couple things. So I realized I was trying to edit this vlog because what I want to do every day is kind of stay up to date on my vlog editing. And today I tested my patience, and we'll get into that. So I realized as I was editing my vlog that I never told you guys my word of the year. I have created a word of the year off and on for the past couple of years. It's not been every year. I do remember that. And the one thing that I have struggled with is every year I have made a word of the year, I basically forget about it within like the first month or so, and I might do that again this year. But I really wanted to sit down and think about my word of the year. And actually, originally, I wasn't even going to do a word of the year. And we'll get into that story in just a second. But when I finally decided to do a word of the year, I was like, it needs to be a word that I'm not going to forget about in like a month or so. Because I've done that so often in the past that it felt pointless to make a word of the year. And so originally, I wasn't going to make a word of the year. And I only came up with one by pure accident. I was having a conversation with JC, and I was talking about the fact of my plans moving forward, not only this year, but for like the next few years, and like big dream kind of goals. And I don't remember what the full context of the sentence was, but I remember mentioning the fact that in order to reach those dreams, I needed to have a lot more discipline than I've been showing for the past few years. And I was like, that actually should probably be my word of the year. And I was talking about the word discipline. And she encouraged me to do so. And so I was like, yeah, let's do that. That's going to be my word of the year. Discipline is going to be my word of the year because I need to have the self-discipline to meet all these deadlines, because I am putting out I'm publishing a couple stories this year. And the main one that is not just me and my personal deadlines, like I've got to like keep on top of it for other people as well, is the fact that I want to put out the writing prompt book. And one of the things I'm including in the writing prompt book are samples of other people's works based on different writing prompts. And so like I was thinking to myself, I need to be disciplined to make sure I hit these deadlines, to make sure I get things done when I need to get them done. And I need to start. A long time ago, I used to hit deadlines all the time. Self-imposed ones even. And the past few years, I've made a joke about the fact that I was quoting, I don't remember the exact quote, but it was about watching, loving deadlines because you like the whooshing sound they make as they go over your head. It's quoted by another author, and I don't remember who it is off my top of my head. But it's like been one of my favorite things to quote for the past few years. And I got to thinking about it. I was like, that's only been in the most recent years, because once upon a time, I used to make deadlines all the time. I used to meet deadlines. And I want to get back to that point. I want to get back to the point where I can set deadlines for myself and meet said deadlines. So that is the goal. And the overarching goal, and this may change, it's already changed a few times. I go back and forth about this so often for various reasons, and I have done some self-exploration on trying to figure out why that is. And I think my reasons every time change, but the most recent revelation about that is probably just plain fear, and the fear of failure more than often than not. And what I'm talking about is the fact that I've gone back and forth about whether or not I want this to be my full-time career, not just publishing books, but creating content on YouTube. Like, between those two things, I would sometimes, and I don't mean just content creation, not just on YouTube, but in general, whether it's from digital products I'm selling, or artwork I'm creating, or formatting author services, maybe, and eventually other author services. I don't know which author services I would offer, but maybe eventually other author services, or like everything around publishing in YouTube and everything in between. That's what I'm talking about. Eventually I want that to be a full-time job. And that's a scary thought. There are people out there that are doing that. I realize that. More power to them. But it's taken me 10 years to get to 500 subscribers, and off and on throughout the years, I've just watched other channels who spring up. It feels like it's not overnight, but it feels like overnight, because there are people out there on this app who have been only on the app for a couple of years and already have reached a few thousand subscribers. And I get why. There are people I enjoy watching too, and I'm not mad about it. I think part of my fear about trying to make this a full-time job is the fact that I was not one of those people. And so in the back of my head, I was like, there's no way I'm ever going to get there. And when I first created my channel, that was not the plan. And I think that's part of the reason why. All the people that I see reaching those goals, that was their plan from the get-go. Maybe not as quickly as they did, but their plan was to get that many subscribers, get monetized, and so on and so forth. And that was never my plan with this. My plan with this, for this particular channel, was just to document my journey as an author. And I think even in the beginning, I was trying to document my journey to a full-time author. I don't remember. I could be very wrong. I've been on this app for 10 years. I don't remember half of what I said a week ago, much less 10 years ago. My point is that I've been wishy-washy about it for a few years, and when you get down to the crux of it, I think it's because of a fear of failure. Because my whole plan, and this has always been my plan between me and my husband, and the gist of it is that I would like to have a full-time career that I absolutely adore. And we, both of us, between the two of us, want him to be a house spouse. Like, that has always been our plan. And what's been wishy-washy with me is what that career was going to be. And I've gone back and forth over that for as long as I can remember. And it's not just the fear of failure. There are other reasons as well why I didn't think that being an author would be good as a full-time career. Author funds are just so all over the place. I've known authors who have done great one month and then done really terrible as far as sales go the next month. And while once upon a time I used to be really good about money and saving money and making sure money went where it needs to be, I'm not as good now. And when I compare how I was then to how I am now, a lot of it deals with the fact that back then I was dealing with like solo finances, whereas I'm dealing with multiple people household finances. Like, there's more people involved, and there's more branches I have to fulfill as far as like who gets what and how much when kind of things. That's part of it. But going back to the fear of failure and wanting this to be a career, there's a lot of things about how I know of some full-time authors that this is their full-time job. They're making fantastic money doing it, but they're being denied health insurance because they cannot prove with W-2s that they have a sustainable income. They are getting denied rents, renting households, renting apartments for that same reason. They're getting denied mortgages for that same reason because they are like the sole breadwinner in their family. And yes, they might be bringing in anywhere from 60 to 100K a year, but because they don't have that W-2 or the pay stubs that prove that they are getting a reliable income every month, every 2 weeks, whatever way you want to look at it, like they're being denied all this stuff. And I'm talking about here in the US. I'm not talking about other countries. I don't know how it works in other countries. But yes, it has gotten better, and it is getting better with every day that passes, in some ways worse than others. There is still a stigma against self-employed entrepreneurs, whether that is in creativity or other avenues of business. If you are a full-time author and you're not, and you don't have that stable income coming through. And yes, I know there are ways to work around that. You form your LLCs, your sole proprietorships. It's all tax related. There are ways around it. But on an individual basis, you are still, as a full-time content creator, as a full-time author, as a full-time whatever you are doing, there are still people out there and companies and businesses that will reject whatever you're trying to do, whether you're trying to get medical insurance, life insurance, renting, mortgages, purchasing. It does not matter. There are people out there that will deny you because you do not have that stable income that they are looking for. And that just means you move on. I get that. I understand that. But the fear of that happening, the fear of not being able to pursue the avenues I want to pursue, have definitely held me back. And I think at the core of it, at the crux of it, that is why I have been so wishy-washy about trying to make this a full-time career. But I think it was last year. I don't remember if it was in a private one-to-one conversation, on a vlog, on a video. You guys might know better than me at this point if it was on a vlog or video. But I remember saying that I was giving myself 5 years to become a full-time. I think back then I said straight up author. But now I'm thinking author and content creator, because I have digital products I want to start selling. I have author services I want to start offering to people. Like I love doing formatting, and whether I use Vellum to format, which is easy peasy, or I do something more complicated with like Adobe InDesign. Adobe InDesign. I want to do more formatting. If you have a book, you need it formatted, and you don't feel like doing it yourself, and you just want to get it off your hands, I'll do it. I want to get into doing audiobook narration, whether it's just my own or other people's, and give people another avenue. I'm a very big fan of audiobooks, and I get really sad when I find a book that is available as ebook or paperback or hardback, but not as an audiobook, because I spend a lot of time reading audiobooks at work or listening to audiobooks at work. So I want to be able to give people an option to do audiobooks at a much cheaper rate, because I know that's what, at least with indie authors, that's what holds a lot of indie authors back from being able to do audiobooks, is the narration costs. And it is expensive, don't get me wrong, but I want to get to the point where a couple times a year I put out a broadcast and be like, hey guys, I'm looking to do some audiobook narration. Do you want some audiobooks created? Apply for this giveaway for some audiobook narration, or something to that effect. Like, I want to be able to offer services to people, whether for much cheaper rates, knowing that it's going to be at a cost to me, or even possibly free. Like right now, I want to build up my portfolio for formatting So I am going to be, probably in the next few couple of weeks, months, going to be putting out a form that says, hey, do you guys need a book formatted? I will, if you allow me to add your book to my portfolio, I will do it for free. And I'll do that for X number of people, or X number of projects. I haven't decided which one it's going to be. So that is something I'm looking at doing. Like, I want to be able to offer author services. I want to be able to offer digital content. I have some digital content already created that I am actually already looking at selling. I just have to figure out where I want to sell, how I want to sell, how much I want to sell it for, stuff like that. Like, now it's just a matter of logistics as far as the digital content. But that's all that on top of continuing to do YouTube. I want to be consistent enough on YouTube that I've got at least one video coming out a week, one live stream a week, one vlog a week. I want to get to that point eventually. I am got plans in place to get there. It's implementing those plans and having the time to implement those plans. And then I want to also continue doing my publishing. I have so many story ideas, it's not even funny. And I can't get them all out if I'm not actively working on them. So all that to say is that I made this five-year plan. I think it was originally just for author, but I'm broadening that term to author and content creator, because with everything else I want to do, it can fall into the content creator umbrella. So I have decided that 1 year's already passed from when I said that, made a video about that. I don't know exactly what I did, but 1 year has already passed, and in a lot of ways it feels like a big fat failure. But part of that is because I think I didn't have the schedules, habits, plans in place to make it work. And over my hiatus in December, I spent a lot of time looking at my own data, like what year I wrote the most words on, what year I published the most projects on, what else I was doing that year. And one of the conclusions I came to was that 2020, the worst year of the entire world, was actually probably one of my better productivity years. Not because I was staying home, because I was already at home. Not because I was staying home because of being laid off of work or anything. And my husband was working a high intensity job. The kids were home, which was actually stressful all by itself. They were home and we were going through remote schooling, which was a pain in the ass. And oh my God, just all in all, between my husband's work schedule being high intensity anyways, because he was a security guard at a prison at the time, we were also, there was the fear that he would bring COVID home from one of the inmates. The girls were already home and we were doing remote schooling. So I had all that extra stress. And I was still doing freelance work for clients. I was doing ghostwriting projects. Maybe someday in the future I'll offer those services again. I haven't decided yet. Leaning towards tentative. Maybe with caveats of like what genres and what I'll be willing to write if I do that, because that's another story we won't talk about. But I wrote almost as many words that year, if not more. I can't remember the numbers I don't remember off the top of my head which one was more, this year or that year, or 2025 or 2020. One of those two, my numbers were the highest they've ever been. Plus, I published 3 books in 2020. One of which was a novella that was written in early 2020. The other 2 were rewritten in 2020, published in 2020, but are the original drafts of both, because the whole 4-book series was originally drafted in between 2018 and 2020, and then I started working on rewrites in 2020. And those first 2 books in that series, the second 2 haven't been published yet, but the first 2 books were published in 2020. So it was by far my most productive year, despite everything else going on. And productivity wise, 2025 was a great year if you look at the numbers. But if you look at like what I was working on, how close I've gotten to publication, and stuff like that. It was a terrible year because I spread myself, the number of words I wrote, which I'm pretty certain is a little bit higher than 2020's productivity. The number of words I wrote is exponential. I did fantastic, but I was spread across so many different projects and nothing really got finished to the point where it was ready for publication. So in a lot of ways, 2025 was a fail as far as like gearing towards that 5-year plan of being a full-time author or a full-time content creator or part-time of each. That's essentially going to be the goal, is part-time of each. All things considered, that was a complete fail. But one of the things that I have to remember is that there's all this talk about the fact that it takes 21 days to build a habit. And I'm like, okay, let's factor that in big time. I want to change my whole life trajectory in 5 years. It's okay that that first year was a little bit of a downfall. It's fine. It's fine that it was a downfall. Because I have I've learned what does not work. I've learned what I've learned what practices I need to put in place to get to where I want to be. And I've learned basically what not to do. I've learned more than that, but basically what not to do. And now I get to take all of that I've learned and implement new practices to put into place, new habits, new schedules, new everything in between to put into place, to actively gear up towards the life I want to live. And that's what this year is all about. I'm working by quarters in 12 weeks. I'm using the 12-week year kind of plan to move forward, which is very similar to HB90. I've mentioned this in a couple of videos and a couple of vlogs now, that if you do the HB90 plan and it works for you, fantastic. The 12-week year is exactly the same thing. It's just with a business mind process in mind versus a business thought process in mind versus an author thought process in mind. So otherwise there's not much difference. Not really. Not in the long scheme of things. So if HB90 is working for you, feel free, do it. But I'm trying this out. I've got my 3 major goals, 2 of which deal directly with full-time author, full-time content creator, and getting to the point where that's like my main focus. And then one of them is, what was the third one? I just recently changed them because I changed them. I had some sub goals that were not supposed to be like measurable goals, that they were just like, I'll get to them when I get to them kind of things. Whereas my main goals following the 12-week year were supposed to be ones where I need to do daily tasks. Oh, the third one is the fact that I need to get ready for this move that we're going to be making. So, all that to say that I made all these plans to move forward. And this is my midweek check-in of the first week. And it's actually, all things considered, it's going extremely well. I am fairly pleased with how it's working. And I will come back and chat with you guys in a little bit about exactly how that is and what I'm implementing to make that work. But right now I have a headache starting to form and I need to get a drink because I've been talking for way too long. So like I'm going to go do that and then I'll be back to chat with you guys about what is different this year versus previous years, or like last year specifically. Like what am I doing different this year than last year that's making it work, at least so far. Be back. I had a complete wardrobe change. And if you're wondering why I'm not wearing my glasses, it's because the camera, the lighting in here, the lack thereof. The only lighting in here really right now is a lamp in that far corner and the Christmas tree that you can see reflected in the window behind me. But between all that, there was a glare on my glasses. So I decided to take them off because it was annoying me, even if it wasn't going to annoy you. So yeah, that's why I'm not wearing the glasses. And I've had a wardrobe change. I got dressed in like pajamas. And because I need to be going to bed soon. It's almost the time I go to bed. But I wanted to finish up my thoughts about why I think this is working. And it ties back into my word of the year. It ties back into discipline. One of the things I could not get to work for whatever reason, in theory, I could get it to work, but there were so many outside factors, or like my brain would like not focus enough to make it work. Excuse me. With the HB90 method, Sarah over at Heart Breathings, excuse me, brought out one of the things she added to her HB90 method planner was the time blocking system. And part of the reason time blocking system didn't work for me is they were only from a set time to set time. And I want to say it was like 6 to 6. And while that's great for some people, especially those who work daytimes, with me working nights, my schedule doesn't work quite the same. I tend to work on like a 16-hour time schedule versus a 12-hour time schedule. And what I mean by that is that I get plenty of sleep. Don't worry about that. That's not even the point. But like during the week, Tuesday through Saturday, I follow one schedule, but like Saturday through Monday, I follow a completely different schedule. And so like, that's why I need that 16 hours, because otherwise my week is mostly on one of those time tracking block methods. It looks like I do nothing but sleep all day, or I do nothing but work all night and never have a chance to sleep. Like the way that just doesn't work for me, because of the fact that I keep daylight hours during my weekends, Saturday through Monday, and then I keep nighttime hours Tuesday through Saturday. Like, time blocking doesn't work for me because of that. Or at least on paper, time blocking doesn't work for me like that. But when I was thinking about it with my tactics for the 12-week year, I told myself what I was going to do was like, I was going to designate certain times of the day for specific things. Kind of like creating a morning and evening routine, except for it was one of those things where like I needed to be flexible. This couldn't be just part of my morning routine. Sometimes it would have to happen at night, depending on what was going on during the day. And then there was my non-negotiables. So like one of my non-negotiables is the fact that my writing sprints during my lunch break with JC are going to be for writing only. And I need her, if she ever hears me talking about, JC, if you're watching this, by the way, if you ever hear me talking about doing something other than writing during my lunch break for those 2 sprints, I need to be rounded back to the writing. Now, if I'm in between projects, that's a different story. But while I'm like focused on a certain project, I need to make those times sacred for just straight up writing, because those are the only times I'm going to be writing. I'm also implementing something where I'm setting timers for different tasks. So like my 2 breaks, they're 2 30-minute breaks. So I've got my timer set for I can do two 30-minute sprints. So I get an hour's worth of writing every day. That's it. That's all I get. And then during the day, I get 15 minutes for doing my journaling, and that includes like writing my to-do list for the day, journaling my thoughts from the day before, and like planning my day-to-day based on what I need to get done, the tasks I need to get done, the schedules for the kids, and extracurriculars. Like right now my youngest is in archery. My oldest, when we get winter weather, she's part of a snow removal program. That's her job currently. We haven't had a lot of winter weather. Hope it keeps that way for a little bit. But when we do, she's got a job to do. So like, I'm planning around all these things, especially since we're a family of 4 with 1 vehicle. Like I have to make it work. I have to make it work. So that's why sometimes things might shift. But I wanted to add some spirituality into my life as well. So I'm doing like tarot and oracle pulls, which means I get 15 minutes for that. Like some things everything's getting a designated amount of time. I only allow myself 15 minutes for journaling. I only allow myself 15 minutes for tarot. I have put into place a personal curriculum. I only get 30 minutes each day for whatever subject is scheduled for said day. Like I'm doing all of these things. And I think that's really paying off. Sometimes it might mean that I'm not doing my tarot or oracle draw until the evening. Sometimes I'm not doing my journaling until the evening. Sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes my to-do list is just a mental list I keep in my brain that I write down in my journal later because different tasks are being added to it throughout the day. And I'm just like, well, I did that. Write it down, mark it off, kind of thing. Sometimes that's just what it looks like. And being flexible helps a lot. But the other thing is like staying on track with those things that are non-negotiables. Being like, this has to get done today. It doesn't matter if it happens now or if it happens later, but it has to get done within this 24 hours before midnight. And then if I do get all my tasks done and I still have extra time to do stuff, then I get to do other things. And that has happened once this week already. On Tuesday, actually, I got everything I had originally planned on doing done that I could do at the time. And I was like, okay, what is on my to-do list that needs to get done at some point, but doesn't have a set schedule? Like, it doesn't have to be done by a certain date. It's just when I get the time, and I need to do it. And so Saturday, I had about an hour that I could play around with, and I ended up creating a Discord for the 12-week year roundtable that I've been dealing with a couple of friends. If you want to join our 12-week year roundtable, feel free. There is a link in the description that should never expire if I did it correctly. And if you want to join, you're welcome to join. So there's that. I will say this about Discord. This is the one thing that is like a pet peeve of mine about Discord. Supposedly, if you click on a Discord link in a browser, it should still work. I've never been able to get them to work. I can only get Discord links to work from my phone if I already have Discord downloaded on my phone. Because if you've been around my channel for a while, you know that I like to delete apps and then bring them back every once in a while. I've done that with Facebook and Instagram a few times. But we originally had a chat on Instagram. But it was just like, at one point we had like 4 or 5 different conversations going. And it was just getting so confusing between multiple people and multiple conversations that I was like, I'm going to create a Discord. That way we can have different channels for different conversations and it'll be less confusing. So if you want to join our Discord, there's a few of us already in there. We share our goals. The plan is to do weekly backstage sessions where we chat with each other about how much progress we've made, what we've been doing, stuff like that on like Sunday evenings. But yeah, if you want to join our Discord, I'll leave that link in the description below. And if it works, great. It should work. But I've never created a Discord server and invited people, so like it was a couple of hiccups. But yeah, I spent an hour. Pro tip, and this is only something I've recently discovered, I have followed several people's instructions on how to create non-expiring like links for Discord that don't expire. However, even though I've created the doesn't expired links on multiple different occasions using different people's suggestions on how to create them, and a lot of times honestly it was the same directions, I've still gotten people that told me that they got the invalid invite notification. So what I tried putting some of those links in a incognito window, and suddenly they worked. So if you are ever trying to get a Discord link to work and it won't, put it in an incognito tab and I bet you anything it'll work. So food for thought if you're trying to join a Discord and get that problem. Incognito. Just trust me. Try it. And if it still doesn't work, carry on. But, yeah. Creating this Discord, creating the channels, adding descriptions of what we were going to be doing in each of the channels, and then sending out the link to everyone on Instagram and being like, hey, I made a Discord. Join me. So, yeah. It was a learning experience. But I think by having these specific tasks that I want to do daily, like that I have to get done. I have to get the journaling done. I have to get the Oracle Tarot journal done. I have to get my personal curriculum done. I've added in working out. I'm doing all these things. But knowing that they have to get done and I'm making time for them is basically what it comes down to. And it comes down to the discipline. I am making sure that I am doing this. Now, it might be new year, new me energy that might be the whole crux of it. That might be what is making me do this. But and I've always discovered that the beginning of the year is a good time for me because I do implement all these changes and I stick with these plans for a little while, and then what tends to happen is I miss a day because I'm sick, because the end of the year and the beginning of the year are when I get deathly ill. It never fails, every year. And I spent most of December sick. And I still feel in a lot of ways that I am not 100% better. I don't know. I'm still coughing a lot. I still have congestion in my chest, but there's not much I can do about it at this point. I am taking all the meds. I'm doing all the things. I don't know what else to do. So, it doesn't matter. The point is that what usually tends to happen is I'll make all these resolutions, get sick, get deathly sick, and stop doing them for a day, 2, 3, becomes a week, becomes a month, becomes the rest of the year, basically. Ugh, man, this headache will not go away. But all of that to say that I think riding this high and having such good results from it right away is going to help. And because I have these tasks that no matter what have to happen on a daily basis at some point, doesn't matter what time they occur, just that they occur, I think that will help make my schedule a little bit more flexible so that even when I am sick and even when I'm sick, the things that are like my non-negotiables are stuff I would do anyways while sick. So like there's no excuse unless I'm like so ill, like I'm spending all day long with my head draped over a toilet, or God's forbid that I'm in the hospital for whatever reason. I think that's the only exception. But like I go to work while sick a lot because of the fact that there's no one to work my shift for me if I do get sick. I think in the past year, I have only taken off planned vacation days. I haven't actually called out sick. I've just been doping up on drugs and being like, okay, I'm here. It's going to take me twice as long to get shit done, but I'll get it done, kind of thing. But I haven't actually missed a day for being sick in over a year. I've been in this position for a year and a half, August, September, October, November, December. Yeah, a year and a half basically. And I have not called out for being sick. Not once. So, yeah. That's not the flex you think it is. I promise it's not. Take the damn sick days if you need to. It's really helping having those plans in place. And because of it, my writing is going fantastic. I've told myself I'm only allowed to write during my lunch breaks, but I do spend like all day thinking about what I'm going to write. Now, it does help. There are some caveats with this. The project I'm working on currently, it's on draft 3. I know the story. What was wrong with the story that draft 2 wasn't like the final version that I sent to betas. It's a short story. It's currently 11,000 words. I think the final version of the first story in this series, it's 7 short stories, part of this series. I'm on story number 2. And the first one, final word count was like 13,000 words, 14,000 words, somewhere around there. And I'm expecting the second one to be the same. But it's a short story. And it had a huge cast of characters. And there was just too much going on. And so I already know what I'm trying to change in this draft. In the fact that I am just dropping extra characters, basically. And I'm dropping some extra plots that I had added in. I'm like, I overcomplicated it. So that's literally what I'm doing for this project. And because of that, I have cut out a lot of word count. Not word count. That's not the right word. Nope. Wrong thought process. Because of all that, the writing is going fast. Super fast, really good fast. I've done 3 days worth of writing now. Yep, 3 days, it's midweek. And each day my word count has gotten progressively better. Now it's about to drop down again because I'm now hitting those really big chapters that I do have to change, where I have to change a lot of the plot, because that was the stuff where I started adding the extra subplot and I was just like, it's too much too soon, too much too soon, kind of thing. So now we're getting into the nitty gritty, and now my word count's going to drop again. But it's still a lot better than I thought I would be doing right now. It's going great. And I'm having a blast, which I think is the more important part. So let's hope it keeps going. Cheers. Just for quick reference, this is what my view is other than my camera itself. The broken grandfather clock that has been broken for many, many years, but since we moved in, my children decided to use it to host their video games and their duck collection and their Breyer horse collection. So like that top shelf is video games and ducks. The second shelf is nothing but ducks. And then that final shelf is ducks and Breyer horses. And then, of course, the Christmas tree in all its fantastic glory. It's so pretty this year. I love it. And the empty gun case that's next to it that belonged to my grandparents. It was, I want to say it was custom built, but I could be wrong. Don't remember if it was custom built or not. But anyways, the empty gun case, we have one gun. It's not even in it. Only because we couldn't find the keys, and I was not going to keep a gun in the house with the girls around without that being able to be locked up, and we didn't know where the key was. We have since found the key, but still haven't added the gun. And we only have the one gun anyway, so it doesn't matter. And then that puzzle, that is a picture frame that we actually found at my parents' place. It was in one of the trailers that they inherited when they bought their new property, it's not new anymore. They've been in it almost a decade, but that's not the point. It was in one of the trailers that they inherited with the property, and they didn't want it, so we were like, we'll take it, we like it, we love it. It's a wizard slaying a dragon, so it's pretty. So yeah, that was my view this whole time I've been filming. Yay. Also, that stuffy up there next to the router is an octopus. That is my octopus, but the dogs keep thinking it's a dog toy. It's not a dog toy, but it smells like dog, so they keep thinking it's a dog toy. I'll pull him down, I'll show you. It's not a normal octopus. He's a frogtopus. He's half frog, half octopus. He's a frogtopus. One of my favorite things ever. It's weird. It's from Dandy's Collector's Choice. This thing is old. I've had this for years. I probably had this about as long as we've had Goblin, before Goblin passed away last year. So yeah, my frogtopus. He's adorable. He's cute. The dogs think he's a dog toy. He's not a dog toy. He does not squeak. That might be why they think it's a dog toy. It might actually be a dog toy. I didn't know it squeaked. I've had this for years and didn't know it squeaked. Well, the more you know. So don't mind me while I'm walking, but I realized that I forgot to mention something. So with all of the things I mentioned, like, they don't matter if they happen during the morning or evening. As long as they happen, it's okay. There are other things that are non-negotiable in a way that have to take place at certain times. Like Saturdays, my live streams are going to be dedicated to editing videos. And then on the mornings, when I get home in the morning from work, usually on a typical day, there is some times before I have to get the girls up. And then after they're on the bus and I get back home, there's some time before I have to get Justin up for work. And in those mornings, that'll be a great time for me to edit vlogs, which is actually what I was working on this morning, which made me want to film these couple of clips that I've filmed that are like extremely long by themselves. So that's the thing I forgot to mention, is that not only are there certain times, like as long as I get them done, certain tasks, as long as I get them done, it doesn't matter when they get done, there are certain tasks that have to be done at certain times as well. It all kind of works together. It's very weird, but it works. I'm making it work, and I think it will be good in the long run. We'll see how long this momentum lasts, but I have absolute faith it's going to work. But now it's time for me to go to bed. Lights are off. Bye, Dragonlings. Jester. Hi. Hi, Ogre. Good. 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 There you go. There's such a size difference between you two. Big dog, little dog. Big dog, little dog. Big dog, little dog. Hee 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 hee. Alright, so I filmed this once, but there was a lot of noise interruptions. I think because of the fact that I was holding my phone in my hands instead of trying to use my usual tripod. And I kept moving my fingers back and forth over the mic. I'm not quite certain. I don't know. Anyways, this is my Kanban board. Kind of? Okay. So I am now part of a group. We are using the 12-week year to kind of plan out our first quarter, and we're going to see how that goes, and hopefully it goes well enough that we can continue using it moving forward. And if you're interested in being part of our 12-week year roundtable, I'll have a Discord link in the chat for anyone who's interested in that. But I created this Kanban board using calendars, printed calendars, and gluing them to a poster board. I've got 6 months on this side, and when I flip it over, I have 6 months on the other side. So there is that. I wish I had a full-sized wall calendar that was bigger. Because I'm using sticky notes on this, I had to cut them down to fit in these little squares. I can only really fit 2 in each square, and then there was sometimes I had 3 tasks on a day, and I've kind of like squeezed them in there the best I could. So a bigger board would be cool. I have one in mind. I don't have the money currently to buy it, but even if I did have the money, I don't really have the wall space for it because this space is really only big enough for this. But this is still cool. I'm making it work. You gotta work with what you got, and what I have is this. So let me go over this. I have all of my projects on that I want to work on pretty much for the whole year, kind of sort of up to date. Like these are ones I know I want to work on. But I'm only really focusing on January through March because that is our first 12-week year. That's why those are so heavily filled in versus like these are not quite so much filled in really well. So that's the reason for that. But here are the projects. We got Changeling. Each project's on a different colored sticky note, which worked out well because I had exactly 10 colors and 10 projects. So Changeling is a male sweet fantasy romance. And then Presumed Dead is the first book in the Sultry Solstices series, which is a series of 7 short stories, all revolving around 7 sisters who find romance with paranormal creatures, supernatural creatures. So we got Presumed Dead, which was originally in a anthology. I have the rights back. It's completely done. I just have to do a couple things. We'll go over that in a second. Imagined Overdue is book 2. Book 3 is Protected Alone. Book 4 is Burned Cold. 5 is Isolated Tranquil. 6 is Trusted False. And 7 is Granted Existence. And then over here on this side, our last 2 sticky notes are Sultry Solstices, the series as a whole, and What's Your Story is my nonfiction writing prompt book. So there's that explanation. The writing prompt book is mostly done, but there are steps I need to take in order to get it published in November because I wanted to include samples of how people interpret different writing prompts. And so the form is already out. I will have a link to it in the description if you're interested, and subs for that closes the end of January. So there is that. That form will be in the description if you're interested in checking that out. But the way I have this worked out is Mondays, because I use Monday start calendars, are at my admin days. They're the day where I wake up early in the morning to get the kids on the bus, get my husband off to work. But because I've slept the night before, Sunday into Monday, for those who don't know, I work nights. But because I've slept Sunday into Monday, I only need like a short nap before I go to work for the night. So that's when I tend to get the most stuff done. That tends to be the day I edit videos, I answer YouTube comments. I've been very bad about it so far this year. I need to get better about that. I need to like set that to be an actual task I do every week. Sorry about that, folks. Anyways, I do reply to every single comment I get though. Not the point. Point is that Tuesday through Saturday are my writing days. And I have this set up a specific way in the fact that I am going to be writing Tuesday through Saturday, yes, but my projected word count, my projected writing, like how long it's going to take me to write a story, is calculated based on word count. These short stories, the Sultry Solstice short stories, are anywhere from 10 to 15,000 words long. I want them as close to 10,000 words as possible. Problem is, looking back at the final draft of Presumed Dead, it's closer to, I think it's somewhere around 13,000. So I calculated this based on 10,000. I probably need to calculate them further in the future as 15,000. My bad. But I know I can safely write 5,000 words a week. Even when I'm sick, I can write 5,000 words a week. So I have calculated this in the fact that it's going to take me 2 weeks to write 10,000 words. But I wanted to add buffer in case something happens. So this third week, basically the way I worked it out is that for every 10,000 words I write, I want to add 1 week of buffer. So let's say this story is 10,000 words. I have an extra week for writing as buffer. But also during that week, if I finish writing the week prior, or even somehow 2 weeks prior, I have that extra week that says writing/editing. So the buffer week will be writing/editing. Okay? And then you might be wondering, Skye, what are these extra ones on Sundays? Because it's like your Sundays are blank. Yes, Sundays for the most part are going to be days when I just don't do anything. Like, they are free falls as far as writing. Like, I want a day off from writing. So Mondays are my day off from writing, and I just do admin related stuff. Most of Saturday is a day off from writing because Saturday only counts because my lunch break at work falls on Saturday. I go into work Monday night. My lunch break is at 1 a.m. in the morning. It's basically Tuesday, which is why my writing days are Tuesday through Saturday. After my lunch break at work, no more writing is being done. After that, it's other stuff. So, typically, usually. There are exceptions, but that's the way it usually goes. So, Sunday. That says read through and send to betas, because what I want to do is after I've self-edited, after this is all finalized, I want to do one final read through before I format it and send it to betas. If you're interested in being a beta reader, feel free to let me know. I am looking for 2 more beta readers for the Sultry Solstice series. They do not have to be read in order. So if you were interested in reading Imagined Overdue, but you don't care if you read Presumed Dead, that's fine. I am a person who likes to read series in order, so I completely understand if you're like, no, I need to read Presumed Dead first. I can send you both. But I'm looking for 2 more beta readers. I don't have a beta reader form. It's been so long since I've done beta readers, I don't remember how to do things. So bear with me. By then, I should have a beta reader form. I might even have one by the time I post this video. We'll see. That might be part of my admin task for the Monday. Anyways, so yeah. And then the way I want to work this out is that I'll give betas 2 weeks, because it's a 10,000 word short story. I think 2 weeks is enough time. And then when I do this write, edit, read through week, that's when I want to work on feedback from betas and get that done. So that it'll be finalized, the edits will be finalized and done and ready for publication. The way I've set this up is I worked backwards. I knew that I wanted Presumed Dead to be published right around the summer solstice, because that's when it takes place. All of the short stories in this series take place either during the summer or winter solstice. It hops back and forth. I worked backwards from there, knowing that I had to format it. I had to get metadata done, which means like keywords, categories, stuff like that. I needed to format the front and back matter. I needed to format it. I needed to write a blurb. So I worked backwards from the date that I knew I wanted to publish and planned all those steps, including writing, editing, everything. If it was a step I usually take, I calculated based on that. And that's why there's so many sticky notes on April through June as well. And there's even some for July through December, though they get more and more sparse with each month, because I planned from those publication dates. That is how this worked. Now, you can see that there's some sticky notes missing because I've already completed those tasks. And what I'm doing is I have a task jar. Let me grab that real quick. Here is my task jar. As I finish sticky notes, I pull them off and add them to this. I actually have to add a couple more. So, of my task jar, we have written both Wednesday, and as I'm filming this again, because I originally filmed it on Monday, but as I'm filming again, I completed Thursday. So, there we go. What I'm hoping for is at the end of this year, I will have completed all of my tasks that I set forth on this calendar and dropped them in here. Now, caveats to that. I've been having really good writing days this week, and I have actually almost finished this story. I will probably finish it before the 17th, which is my official finish date. Well, actually, my finish date is technically the 24th, but I will finish it well before then. The way I want to work this is like, let's pretend I finish on the 10th. I finish this story on the 10th. That means I don't need these sticky notes down here that say write from the 13th through the 17th. What I will do is I will remove those and keep them for a project after all these 10 projects are done. And I will use them again because I don't have them, like, there's no denomination on them as far as like what project they're for, other than the fact that they match the color assigned. They match the color assigned for Imagine Overdue. So I will keep them if I don't use them to use for another project. And I will skip to the next week. Now, caveat to that is that I want to keep admin tasks on Monday and writing and editing tasks on Tuesday through Saturday. So if I complete my tasks on the 12th, let's just say that I've already formatted the story, which I have. I've already formatted Changeling, and I just need to finish metadata. And let's pretend I get that finished real quick. Then I will move on to tasks for the 19th, and I will do the blurb and front and back matter for Presumed Dead. Like, I will skip and do the next week's admin tasks. If I finish writing Imagine Overdue on the 10th, I will skip the 13th through the 17th and just skip on down to the 20th to the 24th tasks. And that will also mean all of my tasks will move up a day, which works because then I can get these stories done faster or spend more time on stories that are causing me problems so that I can get them done this year before their publication date. Because with the Sultry Solstices short stories, they are going to rapid release every 2 weeks starting June 23rd. Because that's when the closest date to the solstice. The solstice is either the 20th or 21st. I don't remember which. But that is when I want to publish Presumed Dead, which is the first of the sultry solstices. And then every 2 weeks after that date, one of the 7 stories is going to come out until all 7 are out. So that is when those stories are going to be published, which means I need to get them written well before then. I need to have the final one written and just working on editing of that final one by May 9th. I've got that scheduled. Also, Changeling is my first release of the year. It is coming out May 26th. So, I'm always releasing on Tuesdays. I'm writing Tuesday through Saturday. Mondays are admin days. I've got that pretty much figured out, and that is my schedule for all year. At least up until we move. That may change when we move in July, August. I'm only concentrating on January through March as far as like what I'm working on, but I'm leaving it open. I will not move these off this calendar because that will tell me when stuff is due by. Even if I finish it early, like even if I finish writing early and I remove the 13th through 17, I will not move all these rest up because I want to know when I need them due by. Like, I know that I need the read through and send to betas done by the 25th of January. But let's pretend that I start working on Protected Alone, which is the next story in the series. But let's say I start working on it on the 20th, but it takes me a little longer to write. Let's say it takes me 4 weeks to write. I know I need to have it finished and sent off to betas by the 15th to stay on target. So I won't be moving these up. Even if I finish early, I will leave everything where it is and just remove it as I complete the task or as I get rid of the task. That is how I will handle that. So there you go. That is my look at my calendar and my writing schedule. I have it all planned out, at least for these projects. And then once I complete all of these projects, or I get most of these projects completed, as I get closer, like say that's we're in quarter 2, I will plan out quarter 2 when we get closer to quarter 2 and add new projects into the mix. Ogre likes to take mine in Justin's spot. Currently he's in Justin's spot. Sometimes he's in my spot. And Baggy's laying on my side of the bed. Ogre likes to make himself look small, but he can take up this entire bed when he wants. Don't let him fool you with that cute face. Alright, Dragonlings, it is time for the final update of the week. And I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible because this vlog is already super long. It took me most of the week to edit it, and that was one of the things I didn't factor into my task this week. I completely forgot to add in a task that said edit vlog. So I've added that as of today, and I have not checked it off yet because I'm not done editing the vlog. But I have a list of tasks that I was supposed to do today. I will leave a screenshot here for you to take a look at that. And I did not complete all of them. I overloaded myself with tasks thinking I could do them all, and I couldn't. And I knew I was doing that because this week was a week where I was trying out a whole bunch of things to see what worked and what didn't. I've added in a bunch of different tasks for the week that I needed to get done, and I needed to figure out when I was going to do them and how long I was going to work on each of them. I added in some new habits that I wanted to partake of. I'm setting this whole new writing schedule, this whole new content creation schedule. So like, I knew I was overloading myself, especially since a lot of what I added was like admin tasks that I needed to complete on the admin day, which is my Monday, and they didn't get done that day. And they were things that I hadn't originally planned for, so I'm not mad about it. I added them as like if I finish other tasks, let me work on these kind of tasks. And I did not end up finishing those other tasks, so I did not get to those tasks, which is fine. Again, I will move them to an admin day for next week or even the week after. We'll see. I'm not in a rush to complete some of the tasks that I added, so it's not a big deal. That being said, I am happy with the progress I made this week. Actually, extremely happy with the progress I made this week. I was working on Presumed Dead. That was the story I was working on this week. And my goal is 5,000 words a week. I wrote 11,123 words this week. Most of those words were written during my lunch break, 2 30-minute breaks. I added in a couple sprints here and there when I was doing laundry this week, and I was at the laundromat. I try to fit in writing at the laundromat because I don't have internet access. And I don't want to listen to vlog clips while in a public location. So writing is usually what I do when I'm at the laundromat. So I did have a couple extra sprints during that time period, which I knew would happen, but I don't want to account for them in case, like, let's say something happens and I don't get to the laundromat, or like it's one of those cases where I throw everything into the wash and I go and run some errands and then come back and switch everything. So I don't always write while at the laundromat. So I don't want to add those in as tasks that are going to be done. They're extra that may get done kind of things. But considering the fact that I only had plans to write about 5,000 words this week and I wrote over 11,000, I am extremely happy with that progress. The other thing is that the story, in my mind, when I was plotting out things on my Kanban board, I thought the story was going to be 10,000 words long. As you can tell, I just said I wrote 11,000 words, and all those words are currently staying. I went back and looked at my final draft for the first story, and it's sitting at just over 13,000 words, at like 13,000... I just looked at it. It was 13,144. That's what the final word count of the first story is. And I want them roughly to be all the same amount. So I forgot that when I wrote the original story that was in the anthology, it was about somewhere between 8,000 and 10,000 words by itself. The minimum word count goal was 8,000 words, so I know it was over 8,000, but it was less than 10. So somewhere between 8,000 and 10,000 words was the story that was in the anthology. Since then, I have added 2 new chapters from the male love interest perspective, one at the beginning of the story, one at the end. And then the final thing I did was I added an epilogue for the character, to introduce the character who's going to be in the second story. So that's the way I'm going to be doing it. The first and final chapter in each of these short stories is going to be from the male love interest point of view, whereas the middle chapters are from the female character, one of the 7 sisters, point of view. And then I'm adding an epilogue, which is going to be from the perspective of the female character who is the main character of the following story. So in the first story, the main characters are Keegan and Tara, and then the epilogue is from the perspective of Josephina, who is the main female character in Imagined Overdue, which is the one I've been working on this week. And in Imagined Overdue, we've got the first and final chapters from Seb's point of view, and then the rest of the story in Josephina's point of view, and then the epilogue is going to be from Jada's point of view, because Jada is the character who's the sister, the main female character in Protected Alone, which is the next story in the series. I have introduced another character who will be the male love interest in another story in the series, in book 2, and that won't be happening in all of them, but this one is one of those where I knew that character was going to be the love interest in a later story. And originally I was thinking that his story needed to be next, but I decided against that in the long run. And when I finally get to that story, I'll talk about that more, but not there yet. The next story is Protected Alone, which is a gargoyle. The first one is a ghost, quote unquote. He is not dead. That's the whole point of presumed dead. The second one, Josephina is a witch and Seb is a vampire. So that's how that goes. And then the third story, Protected Alone, our male love interest is a gargoyle, because the male love interests are all paranormal creatures in this series. So, yeah, that is what we're working on. So I'm going to start planning these stories as if they're going to be between 13 to 15,000 words, which means I kind of do need to go back to the drawing board with my planning stuff, because it means that if I plan the way I said I was going to be planning, with the fact that every week is going to be about 5,000 words plus a buffer week for every 10,000 words, that means I need to plot out the stories to take me 3.5 weeks to complete. And that was something I did not calculate. I wish before I had set up my Kanban board, I had went ahead and figured out how long these stories were so I could adjust accordingly. But lessons learned, and maybe I will write more, because next weekend is the 12-hour marathon. It's going to be the 17th through the 18th, starting on Steph's channel on the 17th, and then finishing up on my channel on the 18th. My stream starts at midnight on the 18th, so midnight my time, which is mountain time. So that should be, by the time you see this video, that actually should be scheduled. And I should actually have a post that announces the fact that we're doing a 12-hour marathon. And I plan on working on Protected Alone during that marathon. So I may actually continue to stay ahead. Because currently, right now, I'm ahead of schedule. And I may continue to stay ahead based on that fact. And as we are doing one of those 12-hour marathons every month, at least until I move. So I may continue to stay on schedule. In fact, I may continue to stay ahead. We shall see. The way I planned it and the way it's going to work out word count wise, if I go based off word count, I did not give myself enough time. But between all the events that are happening, because this month we've got the 12-hour marathon. Next month is we're doing another 12-hour marathon next month, maybe. I actually need to talk to Steph about that. Because the other thing that's going on next month is writer Sam Wicker is hosting a under 1K authortube and booktube subs marathon. I butchered that title, but she's doing a marathon, in February. It's a week-long marathon. I have at least one stream scheduled. I need to look back at this schedule and see if I can do more than one. Probably not. But I can at least see and then go from there. And I think that coincides with the same week we were going to do a 12-hour marathon. So we might not be doing a 12-hour marathon in February based on that information alone. We'll see. Like I said, I need to talk to Steph. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if I can continue to stay on schedule, to see if I can continue to do all this stuff. Because my publishing schedule all revolves around this working and keeping up with the plan I had plotted out. If anything screws up, if anything takes longer than I have plotted it out to take, I have basically screwed up my publishing schedule. So I have got to stay on target. I'm optimistic about it. I am actually very optimistic about it. Probably too optimistic. But there are a lot of factors that could screw up my plans, as always. So we shall see what happens. But I'm extremely happy with the progress I've made. I'm almost done with the third draft of this story, and this will be the final edit, the final read through, I got to send it to betas. If you are interested in being a beta, if you like paranormal romance, if you like sweet romance where they don't even kiss until the very end of the story. Hello. Oldest is awake.
Are you making a video?
I am vlogging my final clip for this week. Oops. What's oops?
I didn't mean to interrupt that.
Oh, no, you're fine. You're fine. But, if you're interested in being a beta reader for a sweet paranormal romance that's a short story, let me know in the comments, because I'm looking for 2 more people. And yeah, I think that's it. I will check in next week and see how next week goes. We'll see. Anyways, bye, Dragon.